Oh, hello everybody, and welcome to Towards Snuffers. I am your host, Colin Connors. With me, as always, is my wonderful co-host / Latina flavor, Alicia Garza.
Hello.
Also joining us today, the very insightful Prince Ty.
Good evening.
The always awesome Alex Cash. And our very special guest tonight from Survivor Cook Islands, the wonderful Billy Garcia.
Hey, fan.
All right, so guys, we have a whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Right off the bat, I am actually going to jump to Ty because Ty had these wonderful power rankings in which he made one really good assessment, I think, in his most recent video. He said Sarah was the #1 contender, but then he also was dumb enough to put Debbie on as number 5 as a 5th place power ranking. So Ty, what I want to ask you is this. You were kind of somewhat positive on Debbie last episode while I was completely bullish on her. What do you think you misread about...
You were bearish on her.
Bearish on her, yes, correct. What do you think you misread about the whole Debbie situation?
I don't think I misread shit about the Debbie situation. I said that Debbie's move last week was good. And then I put her on 5th because Sierra was seen as more of a villain in last episode, as far as I could tell, than Debbie was tonight. As she was for most of this episode, until Debbie made the mistake of pulling her shit with Aubrey. If she had tried, we'll get into why she got booted, I'm sure. I'm sure Elise will eventually talk about that as well. But she didn't get the huge negative edit until she talked to Aubrey, at which point the eye roll around the world happened and Debbie was sunk. I don't know. I said that her episode last week wasn't that bad, and I put her in at number 5. I didn't say she was a #1 contender. I said this very easily could happen. It did. It did. Okay. I love Debbie. She's a time bomb.
So, but with that being said, your other big point from your power rankings was that Sarah, because she was playing both sides so well, was your #1 pick. Now, after this episode, she had a fantastic one. What I want to know is, this season, a lot of people getting big edits are getting axed. What do you think could save Sarah from that fate? Because my thing is, I agree she's playing a big game. I just don't necessarily see it lasting for the next 5 episodes, for the next 9 boots, or however many are left.
I'll say this. The whole reshuffling of the deck at each episode, I think, them hinting at that comment of Tribal Council, I feel like that's going to be a thing that happens a lot. Honestly, my guess is that Andrea and Zeke come for each other next week, and that's something that will allow Sarah to get by, because you saw Andrea in the preview with a group, and you saw Zeke in the preview with a group. Them just scrambling, because honestly, if we learned something last week, it's that Zeke, and to that end, Zeke, now that he's in something of a power position again, may overplay it again. He did have the comment of saying that he only wanted to work with Andrea for 1 vote. We are officially past that vote. I don't know. Sarah's game goes well in chaos, and I feel like chaos will continue to ensue.
But then, Alex, on the other side of that coin, why can't any of these groups of people just stick together? Because the very last question I wrote down for tonight's notes was, why shouldn't the 6 just stick together? Because isn't there so much safety in that? I mean, Troysian had that thing at Tribal Council saying, as 6th place, you got to at least get to the 6th. What's your take on that? Or do you agree with Ty that, chaos would be a good thing for this?
At least getting to the 6 is not going to be enough for returning players. That's the main thing here, is that people are it's not just Zeke. A lot of people are thinking of it in terms of, is this alliance going to get me all the way to the 3, not just the 6? And so I think people are more willing to blow things up, because if there's more chaos, there's more maneuverability, and so that means you're not as locked down.
But isn't there some kind of safety in locking down? Let's say Billy. Let's say they do a Survivor season and all 5 of us happen to be on it. Wouldn't you stick with us to the final 5, and then we boot Alicia at the final 4, and then we would go crazy, or at the 5th place, and then go crazy? Why don't these people want to have the safety of it? Because to me, saying, hey, let's stick together is a damn good argument. To me, Pagongings are damn good arguments in terms of gameplay.
I understand what you're saying, but once you played, you come to a realization that using a video game analogy, I think all of us are gamers to some extent or another. So I'm gonna use a video game analogy. It's like that bar at the top that signifies that player's life. in Survivor, it's constantly shrinking down for a lot of different reasons. And the only way you could extend it is to kill one of the other players. So you have a choice of either hoping and praying that you'll make it to the end before that bar hits 0 and you die, or you can start killing some players and keep pumping that bar up. And to returning players, they rather take shots and kill other players than to rely on the luck of hopefully they'll make it to the end before that bar hits 0.
Well, and that brings up something, Billy, that Jeff Probst always says, which is that, on any season of Survivor, be it 17 people, if it's an 18-person season, be it 19 people in a 20-person season, the majority of players are going to lose. Most people are going to lose this game. So why not swing for the fences? Is that what you think kind of the best strategy is, especially in this kind of season?
Yeah, you're not going to win the game sitting on the bench. If you want to win, you got to go to the plate, take your hacks, and it might be the right situation, might be to swing for the fences. Another situation, it might be to lay down a bunt, but you got to be at the plate in order to score.
So I seem to be a little bit outnumbered. I still like safety numbers, but I understand where you all are coming from. But Billy, you did say you can't sit on the bench and hope to win Survivor. Alicia, Michaela was on the bench today. Michaela did not have a great episode. Michaela has not had a great season in terms of her overall Survivor edit. So what I want to ask you is kind of this twofold question. One is, what do you think is different about Michaela this time around to where she's not getting the good edit that she got last season? And two, is there anything she can do to actually win this game? Because right now, I don't see how she wins. She might make it to the end and get 0 votes, but I don't know how she wins this game.
Yeah, going with your does she win, I don't see it. With Survivor, perception is reality, and their perception of her is that she hasn't done anything, she's not in a position to do anything, she has a bad attitude, she eats food a lot. So those aren't the kinds of things that a jury looks at with respect enough to award a win. So I don't see any way she wins based on what we're seeing.
I do want to jump to Alex because Alex, you had your hand up. But something I want to say is, would you say she's almost like an Abby Maria type person? Now, she's not as annoying as Abby Maria, but the way she's perceived amongst her tribe mates was very much how Abby Maria's tribe mates perceived her. Would you say that's an apt analogy?
That's exactly why I was piping up. A couple of people in exit interviews have actually explicitly said she is the Abby Maria of this season. So yeah, that's exactly it. But I think it's important to note from just sort of a storytelling perspective that her, extra personality, we're seeing the positive sides of it, and we're being told about the negative sides of it, which is, not quite the same treatment that we got with Abby Maria. We got the full Abby Maria experience whenever she was on screen.
But why is it different this time around? Is she just more tired than she was in Millennials versus Gen Xers? Does she just feel overwhelmed? Because in Millennials versus Gen Xers, yes, she was still outspoken and, she was a lot of the kind of the negative traits we see now, but she seemed to have all that, but with a very positive attitude, a very strong outlook on life. What do you think is the difference?
I think the difference is being with new players versus returning players. Because, if you think about it now, everybody on this season thinks of themselves as someone who's in it to win it, and they're serious, and they want to be with other serious contenders and players. If you look at Millennials versus Gen X, she was sharing a tribe with Taylor and Figgy and Will Wall. It was easier for her to be like a positive standout on a season where not everybody was super gamey.
That makes sense. And Billy, did you want to comment on Michaela?
Yeah, we got to remember she didn't go as far either, so we saw less of her. So it's easier to give her a positive edit when there's less time to use. We at this point we've seen her ups and downs. We see her dealing with a lot more of the hunger and the weather beaten and the bug eaten than we did in the first time because she's lasted longer. So there's more negativity to see.
And that makes sense. And I mean, something we talk about, Billy, is we talk about we're in a postmodern era of Survivor. And damn it, one day someone is going to copy me and admit that we are in the postmodern era of Survivor, in which case everyone, even winners, gets three-dimensional edits. But the biggest thing that upset me about Michaela tonight, Ty, the most upsetting thing about that was that stupid secret advantage that was right at her foot. How did production put it there after she said on the bench? Like, how the hell did she miss that? Is there any logistical things? And I'm going to ask Billy about this too, because Billy was actually on the show. But Ty, what the hell?
I feel like if literally anyone else had been sitting out there, other than maybe Debbie, who was nuts, but if you had put any of the other 9 people who are still in the game at this point, they'd have found that damn thing. But Michaela was so angry because she wears her emotions on her sleeve, and she is, as everyone said, the Abby Maria of the season. She just raged and raged and raged, which you got to give her some props for, and missed the thing. Like, I don't understand how it's possible, but I also can't possibly imagine myself ever thinking like Michaela to possibly, like, I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm going to be very interested in her exit interview about this. So, Billy, from a production standpoint, is it safe to assume that the secret advantage was there the entire time? But we don't know how far away those platforms were from her platform. Like, and maybe it was stationed in such a way to where they couldn't really get a clear view of it, because Sarah didn't get a clear view of it until she was already kind of closer to it at the end of the challenge.
Yeah, the platform was stationed when you're looking from the back to the front of the challenge. Mm-hmm. It was off to the right side and past the finished platform. Having said all of that, as much as I want to defend, somebody who's playing, this is the one case where I'm gonna just say it's hard to spot something down at your feet when you're rolling your eyes to the back of your head.
And something I've always kind of complained about with the show is that when they do these schoolyard picks challenges and someone's left out, I've always thought it was kind of BS. I've always liked how they did it in Survivor Nicaragua, where if you were left out, you got to pick a group, and if that group won, you went on that reward. However, Alicia, do you think this is a nice balance? Like, hey, if you're not picked in the schoolyard, you actually can get a secret advantage in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice trade-off because it's better than getting nothing at all. It just, I guess this is like another one of those game-changery things that they're not used to looking for it, so why would they look for it now?
Well, does this mean, Billy, in future seasons, like if you're on Survivor Second Chances 2, you're going to be like, don't pick me in the schoolyard challenge, guys, I got to poop. Oh, don't pick me because I want the advantage. Is that going to become a new strategy?
Actually, I think I'm hoping this doesn't happen, but it's possible that one day we might get a season where it might not be a whole tribe, but you might get like 2 or 3 players pat down an entire challenge either before or after they play the challenge, literally looking for clues to hidden idols, to advantages. Me just clowning around, I would even pat down Jeff Probst. Like, here, turn around. Yeah. You got a clue on you.
Yeah. And that's something else is like, and Billy, I'm going to ask you this. Is it getting to be a little much with just all this stuff going on? I mean, right now we have 3 idols in the game. Now we have a secret advantage and a legacy advantage. And then even last week we had a double vote. Is this a little much, or because it's game changers, we're still giving it the free pass?
You know what? It's a bit much. It's not a little much. It's a bit much. And I think it's inevitable because they're convoluting the game so much that at some point they're going to come up with some sort of advantage that neutralizes all other advantage, where everybody has to hand over their idols, their extra vote, their legacy, or something that just wipes the slate clean. It's going to have to happen.
Yeah. And there was
what if everybody plays their advantage in the same time right now?
Actually, I want you to know, Billy, they did this on the Survivor Reddit. They broke down that actually there's already a couple of scenarios where if there's a tribal council and there's an immunity, there's the 3 idols, there's the legacy advantage, and it's final 6, then this means they walk into the tribal council and Jeff Probst goes, hey, John, you don't have immunity for this tribal council, so you're automatically out. Which at that point, that doesn't feel much like Survivor, and I don't think that's what everyone's kind of signed up for. But Alex, what is your take on that? And I believe you wanted to comment on something previously.
Yeah. So the thing that I wanted to say about like sitting out of challenges is that you have to, like, there's a trade-off with it, just like where, you know, there's a trade-off in winning a challenge where you get the reward or you get the immunity, but you also put the target on your back. If you sit out of a challenge, like especially if this is pre-merge, the more you sit out of challenges, the more you're perceived to be extraneous to the tribe, because if you're not needed for challenges, then it's going to be less of a pain to get rid of you. So, that would be the trade-off in that instance.
So, but what's your take of all this idols and legacy advantages and stealing votes? Which I actually hate the vote stealer way more than the double vote, but that's a different conversation.
Yeah. So my thought about this is that, like, on the one hand, it's important to, you know, destabilize the game and have people, you know, be on their toes. But on the other hand, the more things you chuck in, the more it feels like the boot order isn't really happening because of, you know, X, Y, and Z logical decision, but more like, you know, oh, we're just going to toss every twist we can at them, and whoever happens to be standing in the one spot where we're not dropping boulders on people's heads wins. We're not there yet, but that's the risk we're running.
And I think that's a very good point thing to make, because, like I said earlier, we are at a point now in a Final Six Tribal Council setting where the person who doesn't have an immunity idol or one of the advantages or the hidden immunity idol is eliminated. How much would the internet flip their shit if that happened to Cherie? Like, that's the thing, is like, that's something to keep in mind, because these scenarios could possibly happen. Billy, I think you wanted to chime in on this.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, if it happened to Cherie, who's probably the most popular player left in the game, yeah, it'll be a Reddit riot, literally.
That might be the name of our episode, Reddit Riot.
Okay, fair enough. Here's what I'm worried about. I'm worried about that at some point we're gonna have such a convolution of different things that we could play to keep everybody safe, that the only way to sort it all out would be like Jeff Probst pulls like a Mad Max scene where he's like, spin the wheel and make a deal, and,
yeah.
and if your name comes up, you're the one that's out, you know.
Well, and that doesn't seem. It seems weird because, like, that's just an abstract non-survivor concept, and I think what we like about this game is how kind of clear-cut it is on the rules, because we've never had a version of Survivor in America where they've just been like, oh, this person's out because they got the green tile. Survivor's always been kind of always a pure game. And yes, we have the idols or whatever, but honestly, up until, in my opinion, Second Chances, everything seemed really manageable. Within the Second Chances, we had the extra vote, the double vote, and the vote steal and all that stuff, where it's starting to kind of feel, you know, different from pure Survivor. I don't know. Am I wrong? Do you agree with me?
They definitely are adding stuff to manufactured drama where drama doesn't necessarily need to be manufactured. Case in point, how Malcolm went home. Malcolm didn't go home because he played poorly in any way, shape, or form. He went home because of that twist, which is part of the reason that, like, I feel like the last two episodes have been really good, in as much as the idols that Troyzan and Ty have are relevant. And the legacy advantage Sierra didn't use. It was just good old-fashioned, they're trying to outplay each other. Where is this shit going to fall? And tonight was like a throwback to me to, like, Marquesas. I got definite Row 2 4 vibes when Debbie's hip hip hooray for Troyzan's success in the immunity challenge, only to get her ass booted. So, like, I agree with you that it's, you know, Billy's point that it's a bit much is on point. I don't think they're going to stop it, because the simple truth of the matter is bells and whistles sell things now. But it's nice to have votes that aren't impacted by it all.
And that's the thing is, Sarah, she incorrectly said that a double vote never changed or it never worked, because actually Debbie's double vote did in fact actually send the boot home, even though she would have done it without the double vote.
Mm-hmm.
But Debbie voted for the right person, is what I'm saying.
Right.
Which that was the first time the right person had been targeted by the double vote. But that's something else that's been kind of funny about all these extra twists and everything is they haven't really even changed that much. It just seems to be, like you said, this manufactured drama, and that's not what we love about Survivor. Anyways, let's talk about stuff we do.
I'm going to chime because I have the opposite opinion of all of you.
Well, you're wrong, so we're going to go
Okay.
So this is Survivor Game Changers, and I think the game makers of Survivor are literally just throwing in ideas that they've had for twists and things that could alter it, and they're just seeing what sticks. I think they're going to see what outrages fans, what people loved, what didn't actually do what they were hoping it will do, and then I think they might take a few key elements and apply them in future seasons. But this is really the season to do it without too much backlash, because you can always, at the end of the day, justify it by saying, well, this is Game Changers, so it's game-changing.
Well, and that's the thing. I am glad you brought that up, because I think early on when we talked about the double tribal council that sent Malcolm home was that for Game Changers, I think there is an asterisk next to the season. But the next season, we better not see any of this shit. When it's new people playing, right. I don't want to see double tribal councils and hidden immunity rocks and potatoes that explode, and then if it lands on you, you have to go to the other tribe, but John Cochran's there and he votes with you, but he might not actually vote for the person you vote for. I don't want to see any of that nonsense. Ty, go ahead.
When are we going to talk about the fact that Debbie got voted off immediately after completing Cochran's task of voting Ozzy out?
That is true. Take a moment. And I know, Billy, does it feel like everything's come full circle now for you? Because Debbie voted out Ozzy, and now Debbie's voted out, and Ozzy voted you out. So it's this circle of survivors complete.
No, I have to come back and win. So then I can.
Yeah.
So then I can go like Ozzy played how many times and didn't win?
Yeah. Like I got mine on my second, and then you're like, Colin, I'm sorry I voted you out at 4th place. And I'll be like, that's fine. We got rid of Alicia at 9th. She wasn't expecting it. Right. But I think right now we're focusing too much on the negative aspects of Survivor. I want to talk about some of the stuff we love about Survivor, which is these kind of organic moments of triumph. And we actually had one today. And Alicia, I know it felt almost a little forced in some ways, the whole Sri thing, but it still moved me a little bit. It really did. And I think it was still nice to see her overcome that obstacles. And something else is the rest of the cast really did treat her really, really well. Kind of like how the rest of the cast treated Zeke well after the burner incident. So it is always good to see the human side of these people. So what is your thoughts on this Suri thing? Are you glad we spent all this time on it? Do you think we should have not spent any time on it?
I loved it. It actually brought me to a few tears. But there's very few times in Survivor where everyone is coming together. You rarely see that because it's so often a tale of two alliances or, people against each other. And so to see everyone coming and supportive is a very refreshing and powerful Survivor moment every time. It's inspirational. It speaks to, our humanity and our determination to not give up. And it really, it shows they're all surviving. Like they're all trying to make it, and so to cheer on another person as she tries to make it is really great.
And I'm just kind of glad, Billy, that we actually have these camaraderies. And I was actually rewatching some of the footage from Millennials versus Gen Xers, and I noticed that when a lot of those people got voted off, they said things like, "This was a great game, it's something personal." And Billy, how much do you think having play it as a game instead of taking it super personal, but also, still respect one another, influences how good a season turns out? Because Worlds Apart was the last season I remember where people were shitty to each other, and that wasn't a good season, despite what Max Dawson says.
You know what? I think a lot has to go to the fact that this particular cast sees each other a lot. That has a lot to do with it. They see each other at Survivor events, and a lot of them have played 3 times and even 4 times. So yeah, that has a lot to do with it. But I'll say this: Suri is one of the most well-respected survivors of all time, not just amongst fans, but within the Survivor fraternity. So because it was Suri that was going through this, and her backstory, which Jeff was very clear to point out. He made sure that everybody remembered her backstory. I think that played into how everybody felt about her and trying to get her to finish the challenge. Because I know if this was season 13 when I played, people would have been like, Billy can't finish the challenge, you fat ass.
Well, and Billy, can you tell us a little bit more about like why is Sui so respected in the Survivor community? Because I mean, this is something that's why I love having you on because you get to go to this stuff. You get to spend time with people. You know the backstories. I mean, hell, for a fantastic backstory, check out the Billy and Sandra Diaz Twine episode we had last season. There is some juicy gossip in there. I believe it's Billy and Sandra. It's called The Cool Kids in the Back. Anyways, check that out. But Billy, why do you think Suri has so much, love from the main the group of people that actually play Survivor?
For one thing, she's 100% real. She's not a character. Not to call out any people here because I don't want to blow up any spots. They might get a call back just because the character's that good. But there are certain survivors that they either come up with this fantastic nickname and that gives away that what they're doing as a character. Or I love Ty's reaction right away. or their antics are so obvious that it's antics, that it's just meant to piss off and create drama. That clearly that's putting on a show. So Sari's not that at all. Sari is as real as any fan, and she was a fan that got off the couch and played. So it's when you're so real, you get the respect. When you put on an act, people will tolerate you and think you're okay, but who are you really? Like, do we ever meet you for real?
And I think that's a very good point. Does anyone else want to comment on this sweet situation before we move on to the next little bit of business? 3, 2, 1. Okay. So something I was kind of thinking about today while watching this reward challenge, especially when they were actually at the reward, Brad Culper was saying, I picked who was on my team strategically so that way there would be, 2 people back at camp that were not in my alliance to monitor things back at camp. So what I want to know is this, Ty. From a Survivor strategy standpoint, does it make more sense to actually, when you're doing like a school year pick and reward people, to pick more people that aren't in your alliance or to try to mix them than to just go full throttle with alliances? Because we saw in Marquesas, showing everyone who your alliance is could blow up in your face. But then if you don't pick them, maybe your alliance will be mad at you. So what do?
You don't make it obvious who's tight with you because leaving Sarah alone on that beach and the only other person that was with them from that alliance was Troyzan, who was only given a confessional tonight because he wanted immunity. Like, you knew shit was going to hit the fan the moment he said, oh, well, Troyzan and Sarah are back there keeping a watch. Like, you just knew. Like, you could have had the Dodo music playing. You almost should have had the Dodo music playing because it was that obvious that Sarah's wheels were going to turn. It's the same thing that happened to the Road 2-4. Like, you can deal with somebody being mad and asking for forgiveness later, but like if you make it so blatantly obvious who your main people are, you'll get cut. Well,
and I guess what I want to know, and I'm going to jump to Billy to this, would it actually be proper Survivor strategy to sit down with an alliance before, immunity challenges go, listen, if there's a school year pick or whatever, or there's a chopping game, I'm going to pick you. I'm going to take you guys out even though you're my alliance so that way no one sees it. Or do you risk just alienating your alliance if you do that? Because that's what I would want to do. I would want to sit my alliance down and say, I don't give a shit if you kick me out of this challenge because I don't want people to know we're close. But not everyone thinks like me. Do you think that's a good strategy, Billy? Or do you think that's, your alliance wouldn't like you?
You have to be on the same page, and you have to sort of all agree on a certain set of rules for not just that one reward, but all incoming rewards coming. Not just that one immunity challenge, but all incoming immunity challenges. You have to agree. One of the big secrets of my season is that Sandra and Becky kamikaze themselves time and time again to help Ozzy win immunity, and they did that. If you recall the final tribal council where Sandra and Becky both were commenting that it was Ozzy's job to wear immunity. That's what they were getting at, that they were kamikazing themselves because that was his role, whereas you was the politician and made sure that they were always on the right side of the numbers. And this is something that they set up, a system that they set up. You can do that for rewards. You can do that for like the immunity that I just mentioned. You all have to be on the same page. When you have that one dissenter, that's where things get screwed up. That's when it's, a good idea becomes, a slip on a banana peel, a pie in the face, and the Dodo music goes on.
But how do you keep those bonds tight enough to where they trust? That's what I don't know. Because my thing is, in an online Survivor season I played, in order to keep the vote simple, I wanted to roll a dice to determine who my alliance would vote out. Because I figured that would be a good strategy because there would never be any conflict. We would literally roll a die, and whatever number it landed on corresponded to who we voted out, so there could be no politics involved in the decision making. They all hated that and voted me out because they didn't trust me. So how do you make those bonds? Something like that's
you
possible.
don't put forth the ultimate idea. You ask the group, what are you thinking?
But what if what they're thinking is stupid?
Then you can raise your own idea, but only after you pull them, because that way you don't look like the dictator that's coming and trying to call the shots.
Yes.
Colin, I'm gonna tell you right now, just as someone who's played, when you got 5 players or more, it's a guarantee that there will be a stupid idea on the table. It's a guarantee.
Yeah.
When you got 5 or more players. That's why it's becoming more and more common to see alliances of 3 and 2 and they just do voting blocks.
Yep.
Because in a big alliance, it's a guarantee there will be a stupid idea on the table.
And and I actually really like that train of thought, Billy, because in a big alliance of, let's say it's us 5, it's very likely one of us 5 has all these side deals. It's tied with all these other people. So
why is it me?
Wow.
Why is it me?
Called out.
But I like that. And for all the viewers out
that
there,
it is me. Why is it me?
Thrown under the
that
bus.
is definitely something to consider. Is that maybe because we saw with JT, you can maybe make that tight too, and then everyone else. And I believe Alex, it was a season of Big Brother that Hayden played on, where it was 4 and they each grabbed one person.
Yeah.
And that's how they were able to maintain control. So Alex, I did want to talk to you because we haven't talked a little bit. With the whole Cherie thing, Jeff Probst did kind of revert back to his talk show days. And what I want to know is, how do you feel about Jeff bringing the talk show elements kind of back into the show? We saw it with the Berna Zeke situation. We saw it today with Cherie. Do we like it or does it feel forced?
Well, the thing is that I will take it over a show that is all strategy all day. But I like it more when it's a moment that Jeff doesn't have to make happen. If it's happening and Jeff is there to comment on it, like today, that's great. If Jeff doesn't have to comment on it, like with the Zeke and Brett thing that happened last season, that's even better. As long as he's just gently guiding it along, I'm okay with it.
That seems fair, because sometimes at Tribal Council, Jeff Probst would be like, you need to switch because you're dumb. And then tonight he was like, what happens if the 6 doesn't stay as 6? And there definitely is a difference in those two type of approaches. Anyways, I do want to go ahead and I want to jump to Ty, because you said you thought Sierra was going home tonight. She didn't. However, she did get that deathly confessional of her saying, I'm in the driver's seat. I control what's going on. I'm with Sarah. Everything's great. Is Sierra completely screwed, or was this just a bad episode for her?
She's not in my rankings. Let's put it that way. I'm trimming my rankings to 4, by the way, after you gave me crap about Debbie being on this week. So they will be on 5 this week.
Good.
But there's a chance she could recover depending on what craziness goes on next week. But I'm pretty sure at the very least, if Brad Culpepper and her get broken up, I would have said anything before the merge that Brad would have been the bigger target because he's a physical beast and would have been taken out. I completely have turned on that. Sierra will bite the dust first because she's being built as this villainous, overconfident character who will get her comeuppance.
And I have to say, I actually completely agree. Does anyone have any dissenting opinions on Sierra and Brad as a power couple in their edits?
It's not a dissenting, but I'll say that I think they are going to get broken up. I don't think they're going to stick together. I think we saw a preview of Sierra, jumping out of line to basically, jump ship. She probably feels like Brad is the Titanic right now, or that whole alliance is sinking. So yeah,
and that's interesting because I kind of took the opposite way. I think Sierra, like Ty says, is on the chopping block, and I still think there's a very small outside chance Brad wins this. It's not super high, but I could see and I only say that because this season, everyone who's been getting the big edits have been getting axed. So I figure if Sarah and then Zeke goes and Sierra's already gone, who's really left besides, Cherie, who I don't think she could, pull it out in the clutch.
Yeah, I'll just quickly say to answer that, Colin. I'm not saying that Brad's getting voted out. I'm just saying that Sierra's jumping ship. She's leaving Brad behind.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna work, but all right.
Understandable. Okay, Ty, I believe you want to make a quick comment before we moved on.
I'll just say this. I think what helps Brad in terms of his possibility of being a contender is the fact that he's had quieter episodes. As Sierra has gotten more bad airtime, I feel like he's had quieter episodes altogether, as if they're trying to protect him from her blow up. Kind of like the whole Jeremy and Stephen Fishbach thing. Fishbach in Cambodia ended up getting blown up, and then Jeremy did okay from there. There's an outside chance that could still happen. Anyway.
Yeah, I feel like it's an outside chance, but it's still a chance. So, Alex, something real quick I wanted to talk to you about was you're very in with the Survivor community online. They hated Troyzan in One World. This season, he's been given kind of a positive edit and then no edit, then a slightly positive edit. How do you think Troyzan's chances are in this game? And do you think he even has a chance? And also, do you think his edit this season is going to redeem him from the kind of hate that he got from his One World thing? Even though, in his defense, in One World, he only made an asshole out of himself once, and I'm kind of like, you get a one asshole pass. You're an asshole 3 times, and then, then you're an asshole.
Yeah, so from an edit standpoint, Troyzan has no chance just because, he was completely silent during the double merge episode. And, also if we want to get, really into the minutia, Troyzan didn't get a single chance to speak the episode after he found the idol. So I think he's sort of in the Carolyn position where he's important because of his idol. Mm-hmm. And that's his role in the story, and also as a Brad number. But I think he is going to get more of a image rehab this season, because the previous season he was, this is my island, and this time we have gotten solid positive content from him. When he found the idol, he reacted like a super fan who was wanted this his whole career, and this is he knows he's probably not going to be a 3-time player. Here's an idol. Oh my God, yes. So yeah, I think we're seeing the human side of Troyzan, and
that's good to see.
I just wish he didn't go by Zan, because that's hurting his image.
I agree with that. Billy, you said he's playing safe. Can you extrapolate a little bit more on that before we move on?
Yeah. He's allowing other people to throw names out there. He's allowing other people to dictate what's going on in the alliance. He's just basically just a vote. And I think part of that is that he made some big moves and it blew up in his face in One World, or he attempted to make some big moves and it blew up in his face. And I think also the other part of it is that out of all the players there, he looks like he's aged the most. Physically, maybe not chronologically, but physically, from the first time he played to now, he looks like he's aged the most. So that's probably, limiting what he can do, where he's having to save energy, so where he's not sleeping all day and sitting all day, and so he's having to pace himself. So
and I think he might be honest, because I honestly think in One World Troyzan was 50, and now it's what, 6 years later, 5 years later, so, and that's a big 5 years, 50 to 55. And that's the thing, is I am glad he seems to be getting a bit better out of this time. The only 2 people we haven't really kind of gone in depth about was Aubrey and Andrea. Andrea game left, and then Aubrey, she was pivotal tonight, but that's mainly because she kind of foreshadowed Debbie's downfall with Debbie's crappy confessional of being like, "Oh, Aubrey's my buddy," blah blah blah. And then immediately Aubrey did the eye roll, as Ty said, around the world. So, Ty, what I want to know is this. How the hell did Debbie misread Aubrey so much? And how did she misread?
We've met Debbie. Because she's Debbie. I mean, there's really no better way to answer that than to, Debbie is Debbie. She has moments of clarity, and then she has moments of madness. And the moment she has power, she enters madness, just utter madness. And she literally was drunk with power. She may not have been drinking last week, but this week she was drunk as fuck. She was, And the worst thing she could have done is go to Aubrey, because Aubrey was the one person who knew firsthand exactly how this worked because of what happened. Went in the exact same way. Like,
yeah, it happened because they played, last summer, so it happened like almost a year, like less than a year ago, and Debbie still made the same mistake. And Alicia, one of the other mistakes we saw Debbie and kind of that alliance of six making was they were being cocky. And what surprises me is this is a group of game changers. This is a group of people who're supposed to know the game well, and yet they're still making the mistake. Like my note literally says, "Don't be a cocky asshole." Well, I spelled cocky wrong, but still. Why is it, do you think, they allow these players allow themselves to put their guard down and be kind of cocky? Is it because they haven't had food in 20-something days, or are they just jerks as people? What do you think makes it that they allow themselves to make this amateur hour mistake?
I know
it's hard. It's hard. I can't figure it out. That's why I'm asking you.
I was originally thinking, that's just how they are and their personality is coming out. But I recently kind of changed a medication, and I, for whatever reason, for one day was a super cocky, and so I just wonder if maybe it's like a weird mixture of like too much sun and not enough water, or maybe not like a vitamin that they're used to taking. Like, I don't know.
Well, and Billy, I'm glad you made it, because you've been out there, you've been in elements. Yeah. And something I actually said in my interview with Leslie Neese from Survivor China, which you can check out on the page, was that now that I've been analyzing Survivor as much as I am, whenever I'm like super hungry or whenever I'm out in the rain, I always say to myself, Colin, if you were on Survivor, this is what you deal with every day. It reminded me of one time. This is a completely true story. It's kind of embarrassing. I was in Walmart with my mom, and I was 20 years old and I was acting like a complete asshole. And I realized because I haven't eaten all day, and I was acting like so much of a jerk. My mom was like, "Here's $6. Go to Subway. Don't come back until you've eaten." And I thought, wow, this is me with only 8 hours without eating. What would I be like on the show Survivor? And Billy, do you think that's why people become cocky assholes? Is because they're tired, they're hungry, and then suddenly, they actually get something, so that it causes their personality to just lash out in weird ways?
I'd say that's just one variable in the equation. The other part of the equation,
saying I'm still an asshole because I was mean.
No, I'm just gonna say, here's a part of the equation that I've never heard discussed in any podcast, in any only amongst survivors that I'm aware of has this ever been discussed. This is kind of you have to be there to really get it. But I'm gonna try it anyways.
All right,
here we go. So the way a lot of survivors perceive voting someone out is like beating the shit out of someone. And the more you beat the shit out of someone, the more cockier you get. So Debbie's reaction was that she just kicked the crap out of Ozzy, and now she's walking around like this is her turf and nobody can fuck with her on her turf. And this is why she got so damn cocky that she thought she could go to Aubrey and tell Aubrey what she's gonna do, and Aubrey just gonna be a brown noser and do what she's told and be happy that she even got told to do something.
Well, that makes sense. It's like I like the different reaction. I was like, that kind of makes sense. And Alicia was like, oh, that's horrible. Ty, you want to jump in on this?
Billy's explanation makes perfect sense in exactly how Debbie got voted out. Because who blindsided Debbie a year ago, as it were in real time, just about? And who would Debbie be most butthurt about, like, Aubrey being in that lower position and Debbie getting to, basically, dear her, would be the ultimate drug for Debbie, because Debbie got outsmarted by Aubrey, was super bitter, didn't vote for her to win, all that good stuff.
Colin.
And then all of a sudden, it's just it's an epiphany. Billy's analogy makes perfect sense as to what Debbie just did. She hit a home run, she knocked out Ozzy, and then she wanted to rub it in Aubrey's face because Aubrey did it to her last time. Because Debbie is...
Yeah.
Ty, you're breaking up a little bit, but I have to say, Billy, I think you did hit the nail on the head. That maybe, there is the whole, I'm a winner, I'm the alpha male or alpha female.
I'm telling you what we survivors talk about, behind the scenes when when you fans aren't around. Like we literally like say it in those kinds of analogies. And yeah, and pardon my language, but that's the way we even sound when we're talking about it. You know, there are eliminations that are punches in the face. There are eliminations that are kicks to the nuts. There are eliminations that you rub their face in their own shit, and then that's how a lot of these eliminations come off. And that's also why a lot of times this stuff gets taken personally, because it's understood this is what they're doing to you as they're voting you out. Like in my elimination was a feeding frenzy. I was the main course amongst jackals like eating me alive. So yeah, that's it's negative, which is why I'm sure Survivor leaves it out. But it is what it is. It's how
it's played.
Yeah.
Well, damn. So with all of that being said, and Billy, thank you for that insight. I think we've kind of covered the crap out of this episode. We talked long about this episode. This episode is on, but damn if it wasn't a good analysis. We're going to have another analysis next week. We're going to have an awesome special guest. But anyways, I do want to thank everybody so much for coming on. I want to thank Alex. I want to thank Ty. I want to thank my wonderful co-host, Alicia. And, of course, Billy, I want to thank you so much for coming on. And it's been a pleasure. Good night, everybody.
Good night.